You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. Welcome to the history of modern politics. Again, so every once in a while, I will get a listener asking, hey, is Liberty Explained in the history of modern politics coming back? And the plan was always yes. And Liberty Explained is back in a different way. And History of Modern Politics is back in the same way. It is Matt Wittlief and I going through the history of politics. Matt,
Imagine that.
Yeah. So it's been a few years since we've released an episode, and our goal, Matt, has always been to continue, not to pod fade, but to get back to it. But here we are. We are doing it. It just took us a little while.
It took us a little while, yeah. Life gets in the way, but I've been working diligently behind the scenes, and actually we've got a ton of episodes where notes are drafted, ready in the bank, and now it's just a matter of Chris and I powering through the recording. So I'm super excited to be back. We're going to start dropping season 2 here very soon, and season 3 should actually come right along behind that because I'm over halfway through writing the notes and transcripts for 13 already, or season 3 already.
A breakdown of work is Matt does most of the work because he writes our scripts, and then I do the editing and posting and all the technical stuff.
Yes, guru indeed.
Yeah. Yes. And so what's funny is this next episode that we're going to record, we just finished 2. We're about to record 3. I remember reading a book on the plague because our next episode was on the plague. And I don't even know where I put that book now. So it's been quite a while, but I think we should just kind of restate our goal with this. And the goal is one, for fun. He and I are not historians. He's more of a historian than I am. I'm a guy that likes history and enjoys talking about it. And I wanted to learn more and wanted to know about the development of the history of modern politics, basically. And Matt and I were talking about that years ago.
Yeah, probably 2017 or 18, probably.
Right. So it started with the question, and the original title of this show was Ideological Origins, and Matt said that's terrible. And so I said, well, let's come up with something better, and we did. And I was like, okay, let's take abortion or immigration or war or foreign policy and start plotting that back. And every time you go, well, we got to go back to the 90s. Well, that means we got to go back to the 80s, the 60s. And we ended at the Roman Empire. And so that's where we started. And the goal is to eventually end with a healthy understanding of the strains of thoughts and ideologies that you see at play in modern politics.
Yeah.
And things, Matt, have shifted so much since we started the show 5 years ago that we need to hurry up and get to the modern times.
Yeah.
So much to understand, and now the parties are shifting and they don't believe what they believed 7 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, but we're gonna have a lot of fun getting there. So just I'm gonna give you a little arc, get behind the scenes. I don't think we've done this for our listeners yet. So as those of you who have listened to season 1, and if you haven't, let's go back. I encourage you to go back to the archives and check out season 1. As Chris noted, we kind of went back actually to the Roman Republic, slightly before the Empire, so we could start to see the both the values that set the tone for the structure of government that is a republic, right? Which ultimately the American founders went back and looked at as a inspiration for elements of the structure of the American government. But also then the Roman Empire, which, of course, featured Julius Caesar. And as we've seen through the centuries and millennia, I mean, the powerful leaders and military leaders have always had this Julius Caesar envy, right, of wanting to become the next Julius Caesar. So these are two major threads that run through history. And so, our aim in season 1 was ultimately to set up how did we get to the establishment of, the politics where there's a division of power and accountability between the king and his people, right? So that's, of course, most famously pursued through the Magna Carta in 1215. So season 1, for those of you who haven't listened to it, go back. We take you through the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire and through the often understood, the misunderstood and not as well known period of the Middle Ages, right up until the middle of the Middle Ages, right? And so, we get to understand a lot of history through the 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th centuries, ultimately, again, culminating with the Magna Carta. So we're excited to start season 2, where we'll pick up with the 13th century and the reigns of Kings Edward the First, Second, and Third of England, and really take us all the way through the glorious Revolution of 1688 and the end of the Tudor dynasty and the beginning of the Georgian dynasty, or the Hanoverian dynasty, which of course puts us right on the footsteps of the birth of America.
Which is important because America is celebrating its 250th birthday. I'd argue now, but obviously 1776 is the year that is most commonly birthed. But, the summer of Lexington and Concord, we just passed the 250th anniversary of that, of Paul Revere's ride, the lead up to the Revolution. And so in this time period, we want to definitely start to creep into that. We have chosen, even though we are both fully aware that history is bigger than a bunch of English white guys. We have tried to sprinkle in some broader implications, but if we're looking at American politics, Matt, we really have to go back to England and look at the development. I mean, we have to narrow it down, right?
Yeah.
You can't. We could do Silk Road with Peter what's his face's book, or Power and Thrones by Dan Jones, and do these global histories, but we've chosen to kind of narrow it down just to political history in the English context, with a little bit of German and French and how it interacts, to show the markers of the development of Western thought around law.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And actually, in a lot of the episodes, I try to use vehicles of the cold open to pick up on some of these adjacent stories that are not necessarily central to Western civilization and Western political development, but also use them to show the link of where kingdoms of Africa and China and the Mongols, etc. Of course, the Islamic empires touch and surround what was going on in this very interconnected world, right? I think the biggest thing, Chris, you and I both probably took away from season 1 very early on in our research was, holy cow, 2,000 years ago, heck, 2,500 years ago, the world was much more connected than I think we usually give it credit for as we go through our, elementary school and high school curriculums of understanding history.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these little trinkets from Rome, Italy, China that were in archaeology in England in the Dark Ages, right? Or we have a lot more interconnectedness going on. The other thing that I was struck by is just like human nature is intact. And I think this show has informed my thinking around modern politics in a way that I sort of look at it, not that it's hopeless, but that we've been here before and we continue to survive, right? Like yes, there are the convulsions and changes of governments, but at the end of the day, the human species continues to grow, evolve, thrive, change, rights expand. Things get better on the long arc of history as it bends towards justice, and I'd argue freedom in a lot of cases. And so I think this show makes me panic a lot less about modern politics, understanding where we've been as the human race.
Yeah. And I've got a dog barking in the background, so hopefully it won't pick up too much here. But yeah, I mean, season 2 is going to be a lot of fun running through that transition when we move from feudalism into the modern monarchy of the modern age. We're going to get into political thought, political theory, global exploration, and all of the pieces and parts of the puzzle that allow us to knock on the door of America's founding. And that teases ahead to season 3. So in season 3, we're going to go back to the founding of the American colonies and the governance structure that existed in American colonies before the Revolution, and of course, all the proximate causes on the continent between the ongoing battles between France and England that, ultimately play into the American Revolution. And we get into the good stuff of the Declaration of Independence and the birth of the American Constitution. And I think, if I recall from notes, we're going to get to wrap up season 3 with the, the first and second administrations of George Washington, right? And that allows us to then transition to season 4, where we really start to look at the American political system and the development through time. And the, current thinking, which, subject to potential change, is that season 4, we're going to look at American history through the lenses of the various political systems, right? So Chris mentioned earlier how political parties have shifted and changed. And of course, we're potentially going through another one of those moments at this time. But, the American historians also often break things down to the first party system, the second party system, the third party system. And that's going to be the mechanism in season 4 by which we kind of understand the unraveling of American political history that will allow us finally in season 5 to get to the debates and the issues and the various flavors and intermixes of political thought that kind of permeate today's debates and what we live through day by day, right? In our arguments on Facebook and hopefully our more friendly conversations with neighbors in real life.
Yeah, we're doing this to be better informed ourselves, and because it's fun to read books about history and then talk about it and write about it. But ultimately, we want to help you. I mean, everything that I do in my podcasting career is to try and help ground you, the listener, in direct action to make you feel more secure in having conversations, engaging with your community, growing as a person. And history and understanding some of these things will help you feel less. I heard Mitch Daniels quote Niall Ferguson recently, and he said that the word unprecedented is so overused in modern media today. And when you hear someone say that things are unprecedented, you know that that person does not understand history. And you, dear listener, will be better informed than a lot of media historians, talking heads, and your Facebook friends by listening to this show. If you're hearing this in the Chris Spangle Show feed or some other feed, please go subscribe now to the History of Modern Politics feed. Search for it in your favorite app. Look for the channel on YouTube. There are social media channels and where you can find clips. And you can engage with us there. If you hear anything in the episodes where like you guys got this wrong because you're a history nerd and you want to fact check us, please send us an email. My email is chris@chrisspangle.com. I'll forward that to Matt. And then, so please just go subscribe and let people know that we're here. And Matt, take us out.
I think a couple more things. I think the Substack is active as well.
For sure.
And you'll hear it now, Chris. You and I haven't talked about this, but I'm going to attempt to commit to like starting to backfill some content on Substack, even going back to season 1, so that we get some additional bonus content to come alongside these episodes. Chris, everybody knows you've got many ventures going on in various podcasts and platforms. I'm excited to announce I'm finally back to writing myself, and so I've got a new Substack, Pax Ex Machina. So go check that out. If you find our History of Modern Politics Substack, you'll see me as one of the authors there, hosts there of that Substack, and find my related ones. And I've got some other future projects that I'm working on that are super exciting as well. Chris, I want to do some fun here, put you on the spot.
Sure.
What was your favorite part of season 1?
Man, that was like 9 years ago. You know what? I think often about researching Rome because I didn't know much about Rome, and maybe not a specific part of the episode. But what continually stands out to me that I constantly refer back to is the work that we put into this, right? I read Ed West's series of books on, early England. I'm working through Peter Ackroyd's books on England. Mike Duncan's book on Rome specifically stands out to me as something that I think a lot about. And if you go back to, I read that, I think, in 2016, maybe. And I remember saying on the We Are Libertarians podcast that, like, Trump is the Gracchi brothers. Like, things are about to change if we elect this guy because he so fundamentally changes the norms of things. I think we've seen that to be true. But yeah, just the like going and doing the in-depth research of all this, understanding anything about medieval history, Roman history, which I just didn't know much about. So I think for me, it's really like the dedication to reading, researching, writing, thinking about these topics on a subject that I wanted to know more about, but just had never found a reason to read a series of books on medieval England. So yeah, that for me was the most fun part. But Mike Duncan's book and rereading that and preparing for the beginning of season 1, I think was my favorite part. How about you?
Yeah, cool. I'll answer that in a second, but I will also remind or state for listeners, right, who have been hopefully looking forward to season 2, right? The research and the reading has not stopped, I think, from
Yeah,
either of us,
either of
right?
us. Yeah.
So, as soon as season 1 was wrapped up, I mean, I've probably listened to 20 or 30 plus audiobooks, continuing to move forward with the information that's going to help us create content for you all in future seasons, right? So just because we haven't been releasing content and episodes doesn't mean we haven't stopped working on this. It actually has been a continuous thing in the back going on. So again, super excited that we'll be coming back here. I think my favorite part of season 1, I think my favorite episode to do was maybe the succession crisis and the Norman invasion of England.
Yeah.
I of course recalled William the Conqueror in 1066 and all this sort of stuff from history growing up, but I don't think I never fully appreciated that there were multiple fronts of
I
that.
didn't even know Harold Horaldo was
Yeah,
involved.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
amazing stuff and quite a cool story. And the I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, right? So if sometimes you hear too many dates and names and all sorts of descendants and lineages going on, I just love that stuff. And so figuring out how all the different pieces of the puzzle actually come together to shape the story and where all these alliances come from, that episode really brings that home as well, because you're bringing in the Pope, you're bringing in Flanders, you're bringing in Norway and Denmark, and it really comes in from all over the place to the central point in England where Edward the Confessor passes away, and it's like, what's next? I think that it's a nice encapsulation of what we witnessed and learned about in season 1.
Yeah, I was just looking. Our outline is 465 pages on a Google Doc, and it's like 11-point type. So, well, yeah, I think it's a great point. We've never stopped reading. We never intended to stop doing this show. It just has taken us longer to do the reading and the writing, and then getting our schedules to match up with 2 busy jobs. And
You've had some kids, I think.
I've had 3 kids since we started this show.
I've changed jobs.
I have
So
too. I've added a small business editing podcasts, and changed jobs and kids. And so, yeah, the podcasting career is harder than it used to be when it was just me in my apartment talking too much. But yeah, so we're looking forward to, please subscribe. Please go check out the Substack, follow Matt on his other Substack. And if you want to help offset the cost of our books, you can sign up there on the Substack as a monthly or yearly donor, and we would appreciate that. Certainly not why we're doing it, but every time you give something back to a podcaster that's monetary, or a post on social media just says, hey, thanks for doing this, I really, those emails in the last few years of, hey, is this coming back? Years after we released an episode, man, that kept Matt and I going.
Yep.
So like, maybe we don't want to do this, but man, like 2 emails, we're like, that's it. We got to keep doing this. There's 2 people listening, so we've got to go. All right, cool. Matt, well, thanks so much.
We're ready to rock and roll, man. Yeah.
And we'll see you here in a few weeks.
Thanks, Chris.